Hey, hi everyone. How are you? I'm so awkward. I have to stop the video because it's eating my bandwidth, basically. Anyway, we are going to work on splits, and I was just, hi Anna. So I was just looking up some old photos of mine where I didn't have splits yet, and I was doing this podcast episode, which will be in Slovak language anyway, but I was discussing and I was thinking about flexibility and what is it good for, because the topic was flexibility. So I also tried to do some research about flexibility, not just how it works, but also what is it based on and how to, because I think splits are one of the goals for many people, especially. So how to get more flexible and why, and if it's actually healthy to get more flexible. And what I found out, or what I realized, was that flexibility, if it's passive, you can hear or read captions of many yogis where they talked about active and passive flexibility, and there is a difference, of course. So this thing exists and we should be aware of it, and in my opinion, or from my experience at least, what helped me in order to, when I had an accident, when I, for example, slipped on a floor and I fell down, what helped me was not passive flexibility, right? Because if it would be passive flexibility, then we would be like ragdolls, like something that is whew, it can move in all the directions. But when you let it fall down, it will just get flat, and actually it will not have mechanism to stop and absorb the fall, absorb the momentum, so you don't so, the thing doesn't hurt itself. This is something abstract, but if you look at the human body, what you want to have is, first of all, somehow, I obviously didn't think this through. So you want to have somehow an awareness of motion, of movement, and not just awareness, but intelligence of movement. So when you move, you want to do it in an intelligent way, in a safe way, and you want to have these patterns of movement automatic. So that's why I'm saying that it's intelligent, because it should be somehow wired without you thinking about it, because you repeated it so many times that the ones you have to do that movement unexpectedly, it will happen very fast without you thinking, and that will maybe save you to not hurt yourself. And this is when active flexibility or mobility comes into action, because if you will only be able to fall into splits passively, then there will be nothing slowing that fall. So there will be nothing absorbing the energy of the fall, and you will meet the ground and your bones will absorb the energy, right? So it will not probably feel pleasant. So going into splits is nice, it looks very effective, but working also the strength, and especially the strength in the end range of your motion. So if you imagine muscle, for example, hamstrings, which is a super complicated muscle, or not just complicated, but it's a little bit not that simple. It's a huge muscle. It spreads all the way from the side to side on the back of your thigh bone. It's not just like going in one line, but it's going like through also sides. It has different heads, like different parts. So it's not so simple to stretch it, and it goes through two joints, which I already talked about several times in other classes. So it has two actions, and it's two opposite actions that it actually does. One is flexion of the knee joint. So that means that when it shortens, it bends something. But then also it extends the hip joint. So when it shortens, it actually, from something bent, it tries to bring it to a straight line. So it's the opposite, because bending the knee was from straight to bent, and then in hips, it's from bent to straight. And this is why it's a little bit harder, also because it's bigger, to find or to learn how to have more flexibility. So it can go further. And then, as I was saying, finding or learning how to have the muscle strong also when it goes to its maximum length. Or not the maximum length, but rather the maximum length that your brain allows it to go. We will try to work on that. Let's see if it works. Okay, enough talking. And I will just drink some water and then we will start. So we will start in seated position. You can sit cross-legged or you can sit on your heels. When you sit on your heels, that means that your hamstrings will be actually shortened in the direction, but then it's lengthened because you have a little bit of hip flexion that is happening. So it's somewhere like in between. Maybe this is probably not the state of the muscle where it feels relaxed, where so the body, the most time you spend in a certain position, the body will rebuild the muscles everywhere. So in that length where they are the most, they will require the least amount of energy. So it's sufficient. And then if you go to a different length, then it feels more exhaustive because it's not the most efficient kind of length of the muscle, right? So this might feel very comfortable for someone, and you don't really realize that there is something happening in hamstrings. Also, I was talking a lot about hamstrings, but actually splits is, in my opinion, although we feel the hamstrings the most, is more about hip flexors from the front. Also quadriceps, but also hip flexors, like how much can you lengthen also hip flexors on the other leg, right? Because one leg is forward, one leg is behind you. If we talk about the splits forward, backwards, and the position of the hips will be always tilted a little bit more forward, but there will be a lot of work that needs to be done also on opening that other leg and that the other hip on the other leg. Okay, so we'll talk also about that. Relax your shoulders, close your eyes. So there is actually hip flexion happening. So this is exactly the opposite that will happen on the leg behind. And then just bring your awareness in towards your hips, into those hamstrings, into how the knees feel like when they are bent. So maybe the position of your kneecap and the very top of the knees, where the muscle or the tendons are stretched. And then release any tension. So try to let go of any control that you're holding in your legs, in your thighs, in your glutes. However, try to create even more length in your spine. And then release any tension in your shoulders, in your arms and palms and wrists and fingers. Come towards your face. Let it soften. Let the skin feel very pliable. Although it stretches over your skull, the bones, the front. You want to imagine it being very smooth and a little bit more glued towards your face. We'll take a few breaths here and we will go for breathing in and out to two counts, and the first count will be half of the air that you can bring inside or outside, and then the second count will be the second half, so going full way into full lungs or full way into empty lungs. So dividing the breath into two halves, and then trying also to realize if you are good at it or not. How does it feel to try to really go into that half, and then you realize that it's really hard to find that balance. And then trying to stay really calm and relaxed in it. So first we will exhale, emptying the lungs. And then we will inhale first, just half of the air. And then the second. Then exhale for the first. And then second half. Inhale. And again. Exhale first half. Hold for a little bit, exhale second half. Inhale first. Inhale. Exhale. And again. Inhale. And again. Exhale. And the second. For 3 more times. Inhale. And again. Exhale. And exhale fully, emptying everything. Inhale. Inhale really fully. Exhale. And exhale. Inhale. And again. Exhale. And second half. Now full breath in, just everything in through your nose. And exhale through the mouth. One more time. Inhale. Really make it so it feels good. And exhale. Let it go. Okay, slowly blink your eyes open. Reach your arms up. Stretch up. And then interlace the fingers. Then turn the palms up towards the ceiling. And stretch here whole way. Again, as much as it feels good. So really trying to maybe even bringing the chest up, maybe side bending a little bit, sending or pointing the hips right, left. So moving your sitting on your sitting bones. Maybe even rounding. One more inhale here. Maybe even looking up. And exhale, release. palms onto your thighs again, and then close your eyes and then just do a few circles with your head. Try to push the shoulder blades down to create a lot of space, a lot of support on your neck. Go the other direction if you didn't change yet. And try to feel and really explore all the muscles all the way around your neck. Good. And then release. So we will take the toes. Since we are going to talk about the feet, sit back on the heels, or about rather legs, feet are part of it, and especially toes. So every time you are going into that active flexibility or mobility, what helps to engage those muscles that are supporting your knees and hips and everything is to really make sure that you are engaging the ends, so your toes in this case. But also finding mobility there is great. And now it's very passive. So as you sit back and you try to really take the toes, even the pinky toes, that might be sometimes a little bit of problem, then you just release into it and usually don't try to engage, but we will try to engage from that. So the toes are spread. If that is hard for you, really try to first spread them, maybe even passively with your hands, with your fingers, creating gaps in between the toes if it's like impossible for you. And then we will sit back onto the heels and then we'll press from the feet. Not from the hips, but rather from the feet, as if you wanted to press into the mat with your toes. It's a really intense feeling, but hopefully it's good for something. It's a mobility kind of thing, right? Not just passively sitting into the joints and literally cranking the joints into an extreme range and just allowing the cartilages and the bones touch and to press into each other, using the muscles to support it. Although, I mean, there are muscles actually on the bottom of the feet. So, but it's also like the tension that is created, that creates space in between the joints. Okay, I think that's enough. Move forward, untuck the toes, and now try to point the toes. So trying to bring the toes towards the foot sole, the other direction. And if you like, you can sit back and you can go into a little bit of passive stretch also, moving the knee, one knee and then the second knee up, rolling on the tops of the toes and then changing. Okay, and then release. Palms on the mat, tabletop position, spread the fingers, then press a little bit from the mat, bringing the chest bone in towards the ceiling, but then open your collarbones a little bit, keeping the chin at your throat, trying to look down, or if you will need to look forward, then try to only do it with your eyes rather than moving with your neck. Belly is in, ribs are in. And then we'll move or shift the weight over to the left knee, and the right leg will come back. And already this is a really nice exercise for splits. Trying to keep the hips facing down, both of them, in the same line. And in order to do so, you can try to imagine you want to squeeze the legs towards each other. And then, again, as I said, if you have the leg there, try to do something with the end point, so your toes either pointing them or spreading them, or flexing the heel and spreading the toes. This might feel really nice for like a stretch of the calf, or the opposite might feel good as a stretch of the shin muscles. If you floint, it's like something in between. So flointing is pointing with flexing. That means it's basically made up word. It's just spreading the toes, but keeping the ankle straight. And then you can change in between these three things according to what does feel good or what you are trying to achieve. So belly stays in, and then bring the heel with the knee straight, just a tiny bit higher, engaging from your glutes. Okay, inhale. Exhale, bring it even higher, but don't move in your low back. So belly stays in, rib stays in, just the heel comes up. Inhale again, and exhale, knee to your chest. Grounding the spine, releasing your head down. Inhale. Again, try to find neutral spine, so moving the shoulder blades back, butt to the sides, chin is at your throat, ribs in, belly in. Heels is pressing up without moving your hips in any direction. Squeeze your inner thighs, bring the heel higher. Inhale. Exhale, knee to the chest. And release the knee onto the ground. So we'll change. Left leg comes back. Again, moving or trying to imagine that you want to bring the leg away from the hip joint will also help you to really fully engage the muscles all around. Doing something with the end of your toe tips or toes, squeezing the legs towards each other. That also actually engages for your pelvic floor, by the way. So it's really nice since those two muscle groups, the inner thighs and your pelvic floor, are connected in this way, where engaging one will also help to engage the other ones. So if you really are sucking at like realizing or being aware of your pelvic floor and you want to make it stronger, it's great to like keep squeezing the inner thighs. It's the same as if you want to go to the toilet and you cross your legs, so you squeeze from those inner thighs and the pelvic floor happens to engage too. And then try to lift the heel higher, but without bending the knee. There should be like burning sensation basically on your butt. Lift it higher. Exhale, knee to your chest. Little break. Inhale. Bring it back. Neutral spine. Keep pressing from your palms. Keep the inside palms glued to the mat. Lift the back heel. We have some error. YouTube, don't do errors when I am streaming. Okay, take a break. Or exhale, knee to your chest. And then go back to your tabletop. So I will... How much is it lagging, you guys? And how much is it lagging? Everything is fine, but it's complaining that my video quality is lagging. So I can try to go into settings on my other computer where you don't see me. And I will try to just lower the bitrate to 4000. And then applying it. Okay. Excellent connection. Okay, we are back. Although you say it's okay, so I don't know. Okay, take few cat cows. Inhale, look up, open your collarbones. I want you to feel it more in your shoulder blades rather than anywhere else. And then exhaling, the same actually applies. It's in the shoulder blades and then in the belly also. Sorry, inhale, open, exhale, round. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. The downward facing dog is one of the essential positions where you can actually train for a little bit longer hamstrings. And in order to do so, you can bend the knees a little bit
And then imagine that rather instead of having your tailbone all hidden underneath, you want to stick your bum out. And then doing that, keeping that, pushing from your arms, you try to bring your heels lower, and that will straighten your knees, maybe. And you don't need to really have your knees straight. And I for sure don't want to have zero activity happening in the calves. So you can look at your kneecaps, observe them, and then can you go into like a passive bend, or rather straightness in your knees, releasing also your kneecaps. Actually, for right now it's impossible for me, but it's also a skill. So really overextending your knees, especially if you have hypermobile knees, they can go all the way back. And I rather have you keep a little bit of micro bend and have more flexion at the hip, so the front hip points are trying to go towards your thighs. And from there, trying to bring the heels lower. You can maybe even spread your toes, since it's all about the legs today. And then bringing them up, and then slowly keeping feet engaged, releasing the toes down into the mat. But still imagining that you want to sag on the ground. If you have your heels up, it's harder, but it's still a little bit of like an arch engagement. Take a little break on your sitting on your heels, move the wrists in circles. You can create fists. We'll work a little bit on that arch engagement in a standing pose. So come into standing, and it's the same exercise. Feet as wide as your hips, so they are neutral. Then we will bring I didn't sleep very well, so I'm yawning while teaching, I'm sorry. Bring your toes up. I was yawning the whole day. And as you bring them up, try to spread them. And this will create, hopefully, some kind of engagement in the arches. So the arches will lift and become super engaged from the bottom. And then you try to keep it, and then you release the toes. I actually saw today an interesting video. I didn't read the caption, so I don't know what what was it about, but it was from Vivo Barefoot. So these are shoemakers to create barefoot-like shoes. And they had like two things happening. So first one was engaging from the arches, where you are trying to, as if you wanted to bring the mounts right underneath the toes towards the heels, so getting the foot flat and inactive, and then trying to create like a suction cup from the arch of the foot. And then the second one was doing something like just the toes towards the sole. So it was like moving another suction cup, but with the big mount from the big toe lifting up, right? So these are two, you can try it on both feet, kind of exercises that you can try. Creating suction cup, and then trying to do the other. Trying really as if you wanted to slide something underneath your toes towards your heels. So doing it with force, and if you were going for that suction cup, it's the same. And as you do so with both legs, then you can realize, if you relax everything, the moment you create that suction cup, it's also called, some people call it padabanda, it will also bring some action into not just the lower part of your legs, but also into your quadriceps. And then you can squeeze your inner thighs again, and then squeezing your glutes again. Relax your shoulders down, palms forward. Inhale, reach your arms up. Again, stretch super tall. And exhale, palms to your chest, hinging in your hips. Again, your front points of the hips wants to come forward, bending towards your thighs as you find the ground with your fingertips. And then you keep those toes, those tips of the hips really squeezing in towards your thighs as you lift the hips up in your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Just creating a longer spine. You can bend the knees or bring the hands a little bit higher or both. Exhale, fold. Then bring the right palm, bending the knees right underneath your face. Left arm comes up, twist. Inhale, stay there. If you like, you can extend your left knee. Keep your belly in. Try to twist more from your chest. Maybe extend also your right knee. Exhale, release. Change the hands. Both knees bent. Right arm comes up. Inhale. Maybe you extend your right knee. Exhale. Belly in. Inhale. Maybe the left knee straightens to make a little bit more stronger twist also. Exhaling. Release both palms down. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, we will step the left foot back. Low lunge, so knee comes to the ground. Low lunge is actually called half splits in some communities, movement communities. And that's because what happens in your hips is the splits. So if you bring your fingertips down, you flex your right foot and come into half splits, yoga half splits, and you bring your hips over your back knee. It's really nice, but what's happening here is that it's basically just a half fold, not half splits. They should rename it, right? Because the splits are not happening anywhere. Normally, the splits are with the upper body. You can bend the front knee. Again, bringing the hips forward. So the upper body is trying to be perpendicular to your open or splitted legs. So this is more half splits than anything else. And that's why I was saying that although we feel the hamstrings, oftentimes it's more about how we can open the hips. And in order to do this, we need to strengthen more the backside. And then also we want to make sure that we have strength in the maximum length of our hip flexors. So in order to do that, you can imagine that you want to press the back foot down into the mat. Almost as if you wanted to lift the back knee. And that will create a little bit of hip flexion also. So we are trying to press back, press the foot down, and then it creates strength in your hip flexors. Reach your arms up, inhale. And exhale, we bring the right hand onto top of your right thigh. Left arm reaches up. Keep pressing from both feet and then exhale, side bend to the right side. Keeping the chest away. Inhale. Exhale. Hips lower. Hip as low as possible. Inhale, come up. Both arms up. Exhale, fingertips down, flex your right heel just so we have more of a back stretch, back chain stretch, bring the hips back. Now be very, very careful also about the position of your hips. Often what happens is that we dip the right hip down, it feels like a deeper fold, that deeper stretch on the hamstrings. However, your hips are very not stabilized. So you want to press again from the back foot, from your left knee to bring the right hip a little bit higher. Then flex your heel a little bit more on the front leg. Inhale, halfway lift. If this doesn't work for you and you don't feel that you can straighten your spine in that at the Hanumanasana, you can use blocks or something underneath your hands. Then you can truly imagine that you can engage from the back muscles to create more straightness in your spine, but also more pointing of your sitting bones back. So this is truly just about that front leg and that hamstrings. And exhaling, folding over. Stay here. With your next inhale, you will try to imagine that you want to press the front heel down into the mat. Again, you're at the maximum length of your hamstrings and you're trying to engage it while you are there. So pressing the heel and then exhale, you can release. Or maybe keep pressing. I'm not going to judge that. And fold. Slowly come back, forward into half splits.
This class is basically half splits and low lunges. That's all you need. However, I was talking about how the different muscles on your legs, or how the hamstrings have like different parts from the inside, from the outside. So it's also good to open the hip sometimes and stretch also from the inner hamstring, and then also in twist from the outer hamstrings. So if you want to try that, we'll come, tag the back toes, bring the back heel up. Inhale, high lunge. And then exhale, opening second warrior. So carefully bringing the back heel down, but really having the front knee opening to the outside. So it reaches forward the same as your toes. Open the arms to the sides, release the shoulder blades, bring the belly in, squeeze your glutes. Inhale here. Exhale, lower your hips just a little bit. Then bring the palm from the inside of your right leg. You can again use block. The lower you get, the more hamstring stretch you will get. You can even bend the elbow if you want to go even further. Then inhale first, twist the chest up towards the ceiling, and exhale, we will straighten the right knee, pressing the hips back. But we are trying to stay low so we feel the hamstrings in this position. And you don't have to actually be bent on your right side. You can be higher, but you're trying to tilt lower towards the leg with the legs actively pressing down into the mat. Inhale, you can open the left arm up, twisting the chest up. Exhale, release. Back heel comes up. And then you can step your back foot just a little bit closer, setting the heel down onto the mat. From there, left palm onto the ground from the inside of your left foot. Maybe even if you have a distance in between your legs, feet, you can bring the block the same level as your back foot. And trying to bring your hips facing forward. But once you twist, you don't want again to have an instability in your hips by having the left hip going more forward than the left. So you want to keep them in one line, or maybe the left hip more backwards. So it's going to go from the chest. Inhale, long spine. Again, sitting bones backwards, belly in. And then exhale, twist. It doesn't have to be too big. So you don't have to like bend, not bend, but almost like break your arm. It can stay in front of you, and it's just the chest that is twisting, and then maybe you will feel the hamstrings if you point your tips of the hips more forward, or maybe if you lower on your left hand, maybe even looking up. Inhale, exhale, release. Step back, take a vinyasa. Whatever variation of vinyasa you want, maybe chaturanga, upward dog, and downward dog, the classic. Then walk the palms back towards your feet. Grab the big toes with your index fingers and middle fingers, wrapping them from the inside of your toes. Bend the elbows, so you have to bend your knees probably in order to go there. Inhale, long spine. Chest forward, shoulder blades down, and then exhale, bring your hips up. But again, we're trying to keep the tailbone pointing as much up as possible, and then just feeling the difference. It will feel very awkward. The right leg feels much different than the left one. Just stay with it, move the weight more forward over your toes. Exhale. Then slowly roll up, running the spine, belly comes in into standing. You shake your legs, especially the right one. We'll come walk forward to the front of the mat. Inhale, reach your arms up, take a really nice stretch. You can also go for a back bend since we didn't do anything. And then exhale, forward fold.
Inhale, halfway lift.
And so stepping the right leg back, doing everything as we did on the other side. Good. We don't even have to go to full splits, just doing these exercises is enough in my opinion. So come a little bit higher with your hips, and then we want to engage from both feet. So the front foot is having that pada bandha, so it's trying to create that suction cup. The back toes might be tucked. I really like to have them tucked because you're training for a little bit more mobility for your toes. And then you want to press into the mat. So imagining as if you wanted to lift the back knee. Bring the hips lower, but keeping your belly away from your front thigh. And then squeezing your right glute really strongly, but also the back foot. Imagining that you want to bend in your hips. That also helps if you imagine that you want to push the knee forward a little bit. I don't know, it feels a little bit strange, but whatever makes you engage in your muscles, try to do it. Reach your arms up, inhale, exhale, fingertips down, flex your left foot, bring your hips back and fold, bringing back the blood into your legs. Inhale, back to low lunge, reach your arms up, and exhale, left elbow onto your left thigh, reach your right arm up, try to bring your hips first higher, chest away, but not the back bend. Exhaling, side bend to the left. Chest higher, inhale. Exhale, strong legs. Inhale, come up. Exhale, fingertips down. Flex your left foot, bring your hips back. Again, observing the differences, or where your hips are. So pressing from your back foot down, back knee down, and lifting your left hip a little bit higher. You can already prepare your blocks if you want to go for a more straight spine with your inhale, creating a lot of hip flexion on your left side, and then exhale, you can fold a little bit, but rather staying maybe with your chest facing forward. Then once you're here, notice if your hips again didn't start to destabilize. Press from your left heel down into the mat super strongly. Inhale. And then exhale. If you want, you can release it or keep it holding as you fold. Relax your jaw. Inhale forward. And slowly we'll transfer into that high lunge. In order to do so, you can change the distance in between your feet, forward, backwards. You can also stay with your fingertips down as you lift your back knee, keeping the feet or bringing the feet in two lines. Squeeze your legs towards each other as you lift from the ground. Reach your arms up. Exhale, palms together and to your chest. Back heel will slowly come down. And as you do so, try to control it so your front knee doesn't move from that position of facing nicely perpendicularly forward. And you have to use actually your glute muscles and hip adductors, and also the muscles, I don't know which ones are those. Externally rotate your leg. Is it the TFL? Maybe it's a TFL muscle, I don't know. Then inhale here. Exhale, go lower with your hips. You can open the arms to the sides if it feels good. Release the shoulders down. Stretch from your fingertips. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Reach forward. And then place the palm from the inside of your left foot. And then we want to twist the chest up. Still the shoulder blades are facing or sliding down. Your belly is engaged. You can look up. And exhaling, you can try to bring your left knee to straight, but you're trying to keep your feet active, so creating that pada bandha. And then you want to imagine that you want to squeeze the legs towards each other as you open your twist or twist your chest even more up. Inhale. Exhale, slowly, carefully release. Now we will step the back foot very carefully closer. We can bring the feet again in 2 lines in case you lost it. Back heel comes down and the toes are facing slightly forward and slightly outwards. You can prepare a block, especially if you're really new to these kind of things. And straightening your left knee back, not overextending, not allowing the knee to be with the kneecap pulled down and really just pushing into that joint, the bones and the cartilages. So imagining that you want to bend the knee. Sitting bones up. Right hip is not going to dip. So right hip is higher or more back. Inhale, long spine, long neck. And exhale, twist just from the chest. From your spine, your shoulder blades are down. You can look up. And it will actually allow you, if you keep breath steady, to go after a while into a deeper twist. Maybe you release the block if you don't feel anything in your hamstrings. And then you can create more flexion in your left hip as you twist. Inhale, exhale, release. Palms frame the left foot. Step both feet back. High plank, belly in, squeeze your glutes. Inhale, exhale if you want. Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhaling back bend, any kind, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then you can bring your knees down, taking a little break here, again with flexed knees. So we are taking really a lot of care from the hamstrings. You can relax there, or you can also sit on your heels if you like that. And that's because in that direction, obviously, the hip is designed to move much more. So you have much more degrees if we are going to talk about geometry. So your leg forward will obviously flex much more than the leg backwards. And this, the flexion of the hip, is actually more constant in between the people. It will be really a big angle, while if you think about the extension of the hip, it's only few degrees. However, this will also depend on like how your bones are built, how your joints are built, and it will you just might find your maximum, and you will not be able to go too much. And changing that angle, it's really hard, and this is why it's much easier to open the hips, because this angle, if you externally rotate your back leg, is becoming much bigger. So you can stand if you like. I hope you did few deep breaths there and you relaxed even without me saying that in your child's pose. So standing and then transferring your weight over to your right leg, for example. So you can lift your left foot rather away from the ground. And then we try without bending in your low back, so the belly and ribs are in, fixing your low back, and the movement is happening isolated only in your left hip. You want to squeeze your glutes and bring your left foot back. So this is what we were doing in that tabletop, and you see it's like nothing. Doesn't even move. This is active, so it will be always a little bit more in a passive range. So if I would just go and passively put the foot there, maybe I will be able to squeeze it a little bit more. And then if you open, so your feet are facing forward. What's up, Kostya? Why are you crying? You unhappy that it's not hot outside? So if you open the left toes out, then you fix your belly, your ribs, and you can go slightly more. It's super hard. Try it on the other side also. So shifting the weight onto your left foot, and then belly in, ribs, and then it's just the right glute. It's almost like nothing is happening. It's such a small kind of movement. And then if you can go to do a little bit of passive, and then you want to open the foot, and then squeezing the glutes on your right side, it will allow you to go slightly more. That's why open hips are more accessible. The goal is, of course, to close the hips, so you are more squared, you have more neutrality and stability in your hips. Also, when you open and externally rotate, your inner thighs will disengage, so there is instability that's being created in your hips. And we don't want that. We want to keep those inner thighs working. Although there is nothing wrong with open hip splits, they're beautiful, you can do that. But back bending, once your hips are open, will mean that there will be a like a twist happening in your spine at the same time as you are bending it, and that might be more, it creates more pressure on your spine. So another reason why you want to have your legs closed. So another exercise that you can try is to find a piece of paper or something that will slide. So it can be like a towel, it can be whatever. If you have slippery ground, it can be any kind of fabric. If you have just carpet, it needs to be a paper. And then, hello, Augusto, this is not, I didn't prepare this for you. You have to remove the mat, because obviously this is not going to move on your mat. And you will try to go down in an active way. So you flex your heel, or you can maybe try to point, but active foot all the way to your toes. You can find something that will help you, like a wall, to stay stable, or you can try it without, especially if you already tried this before, squeezing the inner thighs, stability in the hips, and then you slowly go down. Also the front knee, don't overextend it. So slide, like imagine you want to still bend it, and you go down, 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 and instead of lunging forward with your upper body, you want to stay upright to do the true space. You can bend the knees for sure, and then you want to try to find that straight line in between the thigh bones. Then maybe once your back knee finds the ground, it will be really hurtful actually, so you might put something underneath the back knee so it doesn't hurt. Then maybe you try to go lower, but then can you go back from it without touching the ground? So try to find your minimum and then try to go back without overextending the front knee, maybe going all the way back to standing. Ooh, and you realize you are weak AF. Try it on the other side. Big breaths, of course. Hopefully you have enough space for this exercise, not like me. Having the wall actually close to you is really, or some kind of furniture is really helpful once you start losing the balance. And that's because the muscles don't work enough. And well, and then try to go back, maybe with knees slightly bent rather than. Good. And going down is actually more important anyway, because that's where you want to have control in the injury prevention, right? If you slip, you want to know how to go down with control. It barely happens that you will fall in a way that your legs will like come together, and you have to control the motion so they don't come together very fast. So going down is the more important part. As you can hear from my breath, it's also nice cardio. Good, we will go one more time down on each leg before we finish. Again, trying to keep that micro bends, finding maybe the knee on the ground, on your mat, hopefully, so you don't ruin your knees. And then once you are in your maximum, in your active mobility, so you can still come back up, you can imagine that you want to squeeze the legs towards, so you want to come up, you inhale, and then exhale and you release, relax, but keeping the front knee still bent, and will allow you to go a little bit deeper. Eventually, you will find your maximum for today, and we will try to use the blocks or something from the sides to find also the extension. So instead of leaning forward, we want to keep the belly in and away from the front thigh. The back glutes are still squeezing in. And here I can go lower into a very passive stretch where I overextend my front knee and it feels really intense, but maybe healthier for me is to stay higher. Inhale, exhale, and then slowly come away from it, feeling your legs a little bit weaker. You can shake them out and then change, going to the other leg, other side. Maybe again from the standing. Find steady breath through your nose, in and out. And again, finding that sweet spot where you can still somehow come back, pressing the feet into the mat. Again, do something with the ends of your feet. Are you flexing the heel? Are you pointing your toes? Maybe are you spreading your toes? So some action in the ends of your legs, in your feet. This is my better side. So here it feels better to go a little bit lower, but then can I keep my feet engaged? Inhale. Can I keep my belly away from the front thigh? And exhale, go a little bit lower. One more breath. And then come back slowly. Okay, sit on your butt, legs forward. Shake them out. And if you realize that, if you think about what we were doing, you realize that we were just doing basic yoga poses. So it was low lunge, it was half splits. We didn't do really standing splits, but they're also great. We were mostly working against a surface or against something that we can resist against, so the ground. Standing splits are also great. You have to work a lot on your butt squeezing, so that's another way to get a little bit more strength in your hips, but keeping the hips squared. If you are good at that or training to be better at that. And then we were doing second warrior, triangle pose, a variation of it, pyramid pose, again also a variation of it. So it's all just about how you are doing the asanas and not what asanas you are doing. Lie on your back. You can bring your knees together, feet a little bit wider, palms on your belly and your thigh. Oh, not on your thigh, on your chest, or right underneath, or over, on top, or not on top, but above the other palm. I think it's called solar plexus, where my other hand is. So one on the belly, one on the solar plexus. Take a big breath in through your nose and out. Allow your knees to feel heavy. Allow your face to feel heavy, your hands. Release. Soften. Melt down. And from here, if you like, you can finish with whatever you were doing. You can take a bridge pose to stretch the front of the hips a little bit, since we were flexing them, but we were also changing the legs, so there was a lot of flexion and then extension. Try to engage from your inner thighs, and really trying to squeeze your glutes to bring your hips higher, pressing from your heels or the whole feet down into the mat. You don't have to go into a big back bend in your upper back, but if that feels good also, you can interlace the fingers right underneath and go for a nice stretch also your chest. And then slowly roll the spine down, bring the knees in towards you. Now close them, round the spine, bring the head up and squeeze everything in. Imagine you have a lemon or orange, if you prefer orange juice, in between your legs and your belly, or rather your ribs. You want to squeeze it, bringing the head all the way up towards your knees, and to create or make that orange juice. Big inhale, exhale, release. You can roll to the right side, finding a seated position, either cross-legged or sitting on your heels. Maybe the same as you did on the beginning, maybe it's a different one. Palms on your knees or thighs. Find longer spine and relax your shoulder blades. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through the mouth. You can bring the palms together. Inhaling through your nose. Exhaling the head down. Slowly open the eyes. Bring the head up. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it, or maybe you hated it. If you hate splits and if you are not a fan of stretching your hamstrings. Thank you, Anne, for joining. And have a great weekend. Thanks for the hearts. Or have whatever great if you are watching this from the future. You can also let me some comments underneath this video if you did the class, and whatever comes to your mind. Maybe it's just thank you, maybe it's I hate you. Any comments actually are helpful in this internet age. And also any likes on this video. I don't know about dislikes because I'm not familiar with that. I'm more on Instagram, where there are no dislikes, so either people like it or they don't care. There is no hate, and this feels a little bit hateful if you have the dislikes, but then it makes sense sometimes. I don't know. Hi James, I didn't know that you are here. Also, if you want to join my classes in person in Vienna or in other cities, Splits hurt. I know, I'm sorry. You can always find all the information where I am teaching in the description box on my website, jgung.com. And have a great weekend, gems. Peace. And what was I saying? And you can also join my Zoom classes where I can see you if you want. So that's also on my website. It's somewhere there in the description. Bye.